Hello and welcome to Exoprimal. This review is going to start off really positive and then gradually I'm going to introduce why I can't recommend this game. So we're going to jump straight into a game and we're going to start with the gameplay because that is not where the problems lie. Okay, booting up, and the basic premise is giant robots versus dinosaurs. So mechs and dinosaurs. This should have been an easy sell. And it's a game I so wanted to like, and sort of do. As it loads up, the setting is sort of based around a simulation, rogue AI, evil mega corporation thing. It's not my favourite setting, it's been done a bit to death, but it serves to get us into the action, which is all it needs to do. We don't need too much setting for what this game is. So, in my little hollow room, running around, getting ready for a match to start. As you can see, there is no one else around. This game, community-wise, is totally dead. I've had one match, I think, with other people just after I bought the game when it was on a very heavy discounted sale. So probably a few other people like me that had picked it up because it was cheap. And we're going to launch in and we're going to get into a match with bots. Now, because of the nature of this game, PvE style that it goes for, bots aren't actually a bad thing. These bots are quite competent, and the game still feels fun because the vast majority of it is PvE anyway. PvP elements do creep in, you'll see them at the end. But I'm in a complete bots match, and you'll see the bots keep up. They actually get ahead of me. I would imagine they outperform me for most of this. Classes wise, I'm playing a tank. Health, fairly low damage, some crowd control options, that sort of stuff. I'm not particularly brilliant at this game. I haven't played as much of it as I would have liked to. Again, the reason for that will become obvious when we get to the bad flaws. But gameplay-wise, it's exactly what you want. Hordes of dinosaurs spawn in, and you do as much damage as you can. Here I'm using various weapons to try and manage hordes of raptors that it's decided I needed to spawn. And this whole time we are racing against another team. So the blue dot represents our objectives and the red dot represents the enemy teams. And whoever gets to the middle first essentially gets an advantage in the final round. And these PvE objectives are reasonably varied. Think kind of Left 4 Dead, Vermintide type gameplay. It's usually going to be some sort of defense or exterminate, just clear everything out type mission. But we follow the line. It's basically impossible to get lost. Thus far the map seems very repetitive. There might be more maps that I've just not come across yet. But thus far there only seems to be the one, and that does seem a bit limiting. I'm hoping there are more further down and I'm just not getting to them because of the problem I'm hitting with the game. But the gunplay feels exactly as you want it to, giant mech, big gun, feels like I am shooting big gun. And then these big kind of mini boss dinosaurs spawn in quite regularly. They're nothing too difficult to deal with. The AI bots are really quite efficient. They're almost too effective. I do wonder if you had a sort of all players game and then a sort of one player and bots team, whether the bots team would actually end up with the advantage, but they are really well put. They work really well and mean that the game is still playable despite having a incredibly low population. As I say, I have seen a match with other players, but it wasn't full. And this is the PlayStation version. So here we get some new dinosaurs. The enemy variety is visually very good. There are a decent selection of different dinosaurs that are going to appear for you to deal with. But they all kind of act in the same way. There doesn't seem to be a lot of nuance. Few of the sort of mini boss type dinosaurs have, weak spots. Don't shoot the Triceratops in the face because its armoured plate means you do less damage, that kind of stuff. But that's about as inventive as different tactics seem to get. I could be missing something. I am by no means an expert at this style of gameplay. But I, enjoy the kind of horde shooter mentality, and hence I was drawn to this, especially on sale. The game is always online, which isn't my favourite selling point, but I'm gradually coming around to the fact that more and more games are, and a lot of the games that lend themselves to light co-op tend to be always online for a while. I've kind of softened to it over the years. I used to be big anti, but it's something I sort of am happy to live with now if the game's good everywhere else. Which, gameplay-wise, this is exactly what I wanted, a sort of zone-out horde shooter. It's kind of how I'm thinking of it. And here we are working on a defence-style objective. This first round of it is a little bit too easy. It does get harder the last couple of rounds. The dinosaurs make a bit more of a breakthrough, and there's a bit more management and positioning to worry about. We get some bigger ones. And all the time the enemy team are doing objectives as well. They are, I believe, on the same map, but you can't really get to them. It's not that sort of PvP. The, if you like, griefing happens when you get the dinosaur ability, where you control one of the big dinosaurs for a bit to generally harass the enemy team, which will happen slightly later on. I get one in the last round, which was handy to show it off. More of the bots really showing off quite how destructive they are. They really seem to be really well coded. As I say, you could potentially argue they're too good, although that could easily be fixed by just kind of upping the number of dinosaurs or something if you were worrying about balance. And here we go, this is a bit more exciting. We've got the Triceratops. As you can see, I do very little damage to its head, but if we attack from behind, we do lots more damage. Keeps you on your toes enough. As I say, enemy variety, visually very good. Mechanically, that's about all there is just find the weak spot. But you can see this is taking us quite a lot more work to keep the Triceratops under control. And now our defence target is under attack, so push back. As you can see, the dinosaurs don't do a huge amount of damage. I've obviously got one of the tanky setups, so... And this does very much run on the tank, healer, DPS style, kind of Holy Trinity from MMOs setup. Clear them all off the VTOL, and that will give us lots of space. And as you can see, even with this being an entirely bots round, we're on the same number of objectives as the AI, which I find really quite impressive. And in every match I've been in that's been sort of bot heavy, the AI have been just behind me, kind of just where you want them, so there is some pressure to go as fast as you can. So now we hop into the final round. This is where you'll see some of the more PvP elements. There isn't always direct PvP, there is in this one, although we're up against bots. There is PvE and PvP matchmaking. I think it's always up against bots if you go on the PvE matchmaking. I'm not 100% sure. This was PvE matchmaking. I have checked. PvP isn't any more populated. It's not me avoiding people. So, simple kind of territory control. Hold the node. If you've played any territory control multiplayer, this will make perfect sense to you. Sometimes it's a defense objective. The objectives are varied enough to keep you going, but there's nothing kind of mind-blowing. Which again, doesn't feel like what this game was going for. It felt like it was going for the sort of almost zone-out horde shooter style, which it does very well. So pushing up and we'll have a go at capturing B. All the time, dinosaurs keep attacking, but their damage is low. They are very reliant on horde numbers. Defensively, you're not worrying about one dinosaur taking it out necessarily, unless the enemy team were to spawn one in, because they spawn the big ones that can do more damage. And as we push up to C, we get the PvP section. So, another team, exactly the same setup, 2 teams of 4, and we're fighting. I go down here because it's not my forte, this style of fighting. I'm good. I can manage the hordes, but stick me in close quarters like that, and yeah, no. I'm out. You can rather conveniently change suit at any time. So if you were to spawn in as a tank and find that your team was running 4 tanks, you could switch out to get a better balanced team mid-mission, which I think is something I've not really seen before in multiplayer games, but works really quite well. Now I'm going to zoom myself back and try to get back to the action. Yeah, making sure we keep hold of A. Again, typical territory control stuff. Make sure you've got hold of one and then try and maintain the second one as much as possible and you'll win. My broad range of skills firing off that essentially all involve shooting at someone. And as you can see, we sort of push the enemy team back there. If you're all in one place working, it's not that easy for the enemy to beat you. This is where I sprint off, because I have just seen I can turn into a dinosaur and kind of ruin the enemy's day ability. Now, dinosaurs never tend to last that long. You are going to get killed fairly quickly, especially if the team coordinate, which if you're up against bots, they will. But here I activate. No, too far forward. There we are. And here is my dinosaur. I think I'm an Allosaurus. And then it teleports you to basically on top of the enemy team. So this gives you a good opportunity for griefing, and you are just a sudden kind of wild, let's go cause chaos. So the enemy team are lingering around B. Charge through B towards there. We can see them in the distance. That bar ticking down is how long I've got. I won't last to the end of it. They will kill me quicker than that. And there we go. And here they've got to prioritise me because I can do a lot of damage to their objective. Now I'm going to go down. There you go. They've frozen me and that's me out. Dinosaur down. And instantly back in. You're safe while you're controlling the dinosaur. They can't sneak up on you. It's not anything like that. And as you can see, we've lost both objectives while that's been going on. But the enemy didn't manage to gain any ground, so that was a fairly neutral use of one of them. I'm sure more skilled players have managed to last ridiculous lengths of time under them. We will recapture and see the round out. And as you can see, we're going to win fairly comfortably. Because there's basically no way the enemy can catch up with our points lead. So all the damage at them, and we've won. Nice clean victory. And then, you know, the AI boss tells us how wonderful we've done. And you're going to notice it gives me MVP. That's how I am 100% sure everything in this was a bot. Equally, it does tell you when you've got bots, so you can tell. There we go. Yeah, MVP was me. I really shouldn't have been. Someone was better, but they don't give it to bots. And now we get to live service design. 800 million loot boxes. I don't mind the player leveling thing. That I can live with. I can live with a season pass. I will usually ignore them. What I like less is when we go through, we now get the reward screen, and I will skip this for your benefit, but there were a lot of rewards. Okay, and now we're back at the menus. I'll just show you a bit of what's going on. So go to the hangar, and we've got various classes. It looks like there are hundreds of them. There aren't. But let's go through one. So rig and modules you can change from the big cannon, and you can get various modules to improve you. You gradually unlock these as you level up. As I say, I've not played a huge amount of that. The reason why will become apparent in a moment. And then we have our skills list, just tells you what your abilities are. And our cosmetic setup. And then a comms wheel, which I was really uninterested in. Back to the exosuits. Looks like there are lots, but you've essentially got 3 styles of tank. The punchy guy, the sword guy, and my one with the big Gatling gun. And then the others are upgraded variants. So you saw that was essentially my one but with a bigger gun. And then these are a few of the DPS ones. And down here you've got healers or support. I don't think they all heal. I think some of them are more buff focused. But yeah, generally there's a good selection, but it's not quite as thick as it looks. And that brings us on to why I can't possibly recommend this, despite saying that the general gameplay loop is quite fun.
In order to escape from this island.
That is because I'm now going to talk about logging into it and getting onto a game. So as I mentioned, this is a live service game, and as the title of this video says, this is the flaws with live service design. As a live service game, this has no option to just boot with bots. So, while it's got bots, it's perfectly playable solo. It's actually a reasonable amount of fun because the bots are so competent that you do still kind of need to think about what you're doing. But you can't deliberately set a match up with bots, which means you are waiting for the servers to time out every match. And so you are looking at 3 to 5 minute wait times every time you queue for what amounts to a kind of 10-15 minute game, which is a lot of waiting. It may not sound like a huge amount of time, but it don't half notice when you're sitting there, especially now that we are in the era of the SSD and fast loading. That just really doesn't feel acceptable and is the big reason why I just can't recommend it, because there is just so much dead time sitting there waiting for it to find you another match. And it will do this every time you wait for the server to time out. And even when I've had matches with other players, they've not been full. And that was prime time directly after a sale, so there's no way that it's got the population. If they were to release private one-man servers, I'd almost recommend it, especially to anyone that is a Left 4 Dead fan, because it is fun and there is good solid gameplay there. But as you're seeing on screen, this just doesn't move. There are private servers if you can get 2 people together, which I think was a reasonable move on their part. So if you and a friend want to play this, it gets the recommend, because you just set a private server up with 2 of you and it'll launch with bots. But if you're looking at it with any degree of playing on your own, unless those wait times sound tolerable, I'd give it a miss. And it's such a shame, because I so wanted to like this and wanted this to be my new I'm going to zone out and shoot hordes for a bit game, and it just didn't quite cut it because of that one design decision. Unfortunately, Capcom have said this game's no longer really supported, so I think it's very unlikely we're ever going to get a true solo private servers mode, or even a complete offline mode, dare we dream. Which is a shame, because it does mean this game's going to gradually fade until the servers disappear and vanish from history, which no game should suffer. All games should be around, and that's just unfortunate. It seems to be up for the time being. The server closures aren't what I would be worrying about with relation to buying it at the moment. It's those wait times. Anyway, I hope this has been informative. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.